Hey everybody, welcome to another Breadcrumbs video. We are in the wisdom literature of Solomon. We're in the book of Proverbs. Today's reading is chapters 8, 9, and 10 of that book. And this is really the beating heart of Proverbs is to acquire wisdom and understanding. And these chapters, particularly 8 and 9, really exemplify wisdom and how important it is. Wisdom is personified in chapter 8, and then folly is personified in chapter 9. And you have this contrast between wisdom and folly. And these are obviously Solomon is writing down the wisest man who apparently ever lived, not named Jesus. And this is the appeal that God is making to humanity, to acquire wisdom and to understand his ways. And again, you can kind of hear what we read in the Torah, in Deuteronomy. You can remember God through Moses crying out that, saying, "Oh, that you would choose life." And wisdom is highlighted as the path of life, the path of honor, the path of riches, justice, righteousness. Choose wisdom. And folly is contrasted with wisdom, and folly is the path of death. And so we hear it again, the same appeal to the Lord, from the Lord, saying to us, all of the human family, choose wisdom. It's going to result in much better outcomes for you than choosing folly. And this is really the heart of Proverbs. This entire book is about helping people grow in wisdom and understanding God, and understanding how to walk through different circumstances in life. And it's just wise counsel. And so the book of Proverbs is one of the most read books of the Bible, just chock full of great, short, succinct points and thoughts. And obviously Solomon was gifted with an amazing ability to communicate truth in a way that's memorable and profound, yet simple and succinct. So Proverbs is an amazing book in the Bible. I'm grateful to God for it. And just a couple thoughts as we look at, in particular, I'm just going to touch on some points in chapter 8 and 9. Number one, again, this is wisdom is crying out for a hearing, and all the advice is wholesome and good. There's nothing crooked or twisted in wisdom. Choose instruction rather than silver, and knowledge over pure gold. And so wisdom is contrasted with, choosing higher forms of value. There's more valuable things in the universe than gold and silver, but much of the world chases materialism and earthly pleasures. And God is always calling us up higher to see things from his perspective and to choose the wiser path. And that's where he is. All who fear the Lord will hate evil. The Lord hates pride and arrogance, corruption, and perverted speech. And so this is all about choosing God over things that the world wants us to choose, the temptations of the world, the temptations of the flesh, the pride of life, the lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh. I also love here in chapter 8, where wisdom is talked about being there at the very beginning, before the earth began, before God laid the foundations of the earth, or before he drew the horizon on the sky. Wisdom is saying that they were there. And so is this a reference to Jesus? We know from the Gospel of John that he was the Word, and the Word was with God. The Word was God, and nothing that was created or made, everything that was made was created through him. And so is this a reference in Proverbs, in Solomon's mind, in Proverbs, to this role that Jesus had of partnering with God in creation? It's just something to think about. Born before the oceans were created, before the springs bubbled forth their waters, before the mountains and the hills were formed, before the Lord had made the earth and the fields and the first handfuls of soil. I was there when he established the heavens, when he drew the horizon on the oceans. I was there when he set the clouds above, and when he established the deep foundations of the earth. And so you just see wisdom as being present with God. At the very least, this is saying that wisdom was the first thing that God ever created. Before he laid anything in the natural, he was creating spiritual wisdom and understanding, because that's who he is. God is just light and truth in his very being. And as we move into Proverbs chapter 9, one of the best Proverbs, or one of the most well-known Proverbs, I should say, is chapter 9, verse 10. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Knowledge of the Holy One results in understanding. And so right now we live in a day and age where even certain denominations within mainstream Christianity are doing away with the Old Testament, and cutting off and truncating the very counsel of God. There's people that would want to cancel the Bible because they quote unquote view God as a hater. He's guilty of hate speech. It's just ironic that the most loving, pleasurable being in the universe is viewed by humanity now, by some segments of humanity, as one who perpetrates evil and hates humanity. Nothing could be further from the truth. And the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Knowledge of the Holy One, as it says, results in understanding. And so spiritual blindness and a lack of understanding are all across the earth right now. Much of it because people refuse to acknowledge and fear God. They don't want to acknowledge that there is a supreme authority that will ultimately hold us all accountable. And so here we have, at the end of chapter 9, folly is brought out as a contrast to wisdom. So wisdom is appealing for us to embrace her, and folly is calling us to embrace her. And beginning in chapter 9, verse 13, the woman named Folly is loud and brash, ignorant, and doesn't even know it. She sits in her doorway on the heights overlooking the city. She calls out to men going by who are minding their own business. Come home with me, she urges the simple. To those without good judgment, she says, stolen water is refreshing, food eaten in secret tastes the best. But the men don't realize that her former guests are now in the grave. And so here's folly as being contrasted with wisdom as rash, impetuous, following the carnal nature, and ultimately its end is death. And so we know the wages of sin is death. And so God is pleading with humanity to heed his counsel. I teach that right now, at least in America, if not the rest of the world, there's what's called the cancel culture, where we cancel one another, or much of the world does, if you don't agree with what the predominant opinion or the people in positions of influence and power think you should believe. But in the kingdom of God, Jesus has a counsel culture, where he says in the book of Revelations, you think you see, but you're blind. And you think that you're well dressed, but you're naked and ashamed. You think you're rich, but you're poor. Therefore, I counsel you to come to me. Come to me and I'll give you gold refined in the fire, wisdom. I'll give you clothes, though you won't be naked and ashamed, his righteousness. And I'll give you eye salve for your eyes so that you can see, spiritual understanding and revelation. And so Jesus is counseling us, God is counseling us to come to him, to embrace wisdom, to grow in the fear and the knowledge of God, who he is the way, the truth, and the life. And much of the world right now is rejecting the very thing that really in the deepest parts of their hearts, everyone is looking for. Everyone is looking for love. Everyone is looking for where they belong. And so Proverbs is a phenomenal book. I hope you all are enjoying as we go through it. Looking forward to talking with everyone, processing together as a community as we do Bread for the Journey. But just wanted to highlight that today in chapters 8 and 9, the contrast between wisdom and folly. So have a blessed weekend, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon.